Greetings, YouTube. I apologize for the poor lighting, but Mandarin's here, and frankly, she's more popular than I am. Today's article is going to come out of Virginia, and it's about a group called, wait for it, the Family Foundation. Now, from the name alone, you can probably guess that it's a socially conservative group founded on bigotry, because it's got the name family in its title, and that is a dead giveaway in America. If it's got the name family in it, it's all about bigotry. Well, in this particular case, this organization in Virginia is going to start fasting on August 27th, and they're going to go through to October 4th, a 40-day period. And the reason they're going to fast is that the marriage amendment in Virginia, which defined marriage as between one man and one woman, was overturned in court, and the case goes before goes before the 4th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals on May 11th. So they're all upset that this was overturned because it was deemed unconstitutional because it violates the 14th Amendment. And so they're going to have a 40-day fast. Now, I don't know if any of you have ever fasted. Now, lots of people, particularly in the Islamic and Christian faiths, will have one-day fasts, or the Ramadan in the Islamic faith is a daytime fast. So during that month, they don't consume water or food during the daylight hours, which is really hard when Ramadan falls in the summertime, because Islam uses a 13-month lunar calendar, so the months float around the year. So Ramadan can be in the wintertime some years, and summertime other years, and of course it depends what hemisphere you live in when it falls. So yeah, it can be rough when it's in the summertime. Third shift Muslims at my company have it much easier than the poor folks on first shift. I lost my train of thought. Oh yeah. But fasting is not easy. Few people fast for very long. Ramadan fast, again, is daylight only. And frequently Christians will have fasts. Sometimes there can be up to 40 or 60 of fasts in a year, depending on which particular branch of Christianity you may follow. But they're one-day fasts. So you fast for one day, and then the next day before and after, you're eating a relatively normal diet. Sometimes the diets are more restricted at certain times of year. But multi-day fasts are hard. Okay? I have an ear growing on the top of my skull. I must be part cat girl. I've done 14 days once. I went 14 days without any food, and it is not easy. After the 6th or 7th day, you achieve a state called ketosis, and that is when you begin to consume your own body. And it is the worst breath you have ever experienced as you start to eat yourself. I was brushing my teeth like 5 times a day trying to get that taste out of my mouth, and it wouldn't go away. After about 3 weeks, 21 days, your average person will have severe medical problems, and some will just die. There's an old saying, as far as survival is concerned, 3 minutes without air, 3 hours without in exposure in water, 3 days without water, and 3 weeks without food. And beyond that, most people die. So the probability that these people would last 40 days is very narrow. There have been people who have done it under extreme circumstances and having trained for it, or been put into circumstances where their faith was strong enough that it could carry them through, but they were moving in a very minimal manner. They were essentially shutting their systems down. People in lifeboats have gone like that because they just their body went into survival mode. But your average person can't last 40 days. Now, frankly, I'll be surprised if most of these people can last 4. Some of them aren't going to go past 40 hours. Your average Westerner does not know what hunger is, and they're not going to be able to tolerate that. Particularly distressing to me, though, is that these people are threatening or promising to go without food for 40 days to support bigotry, to support discrimination against law-abiding citizens in America, consenting adults that just want to celebrate their love for another person. Because that is what this is about, folks. Love. Those Christians would not tolerate the government telling them that they could not marry the person they love. If they were told, no, I'm sorry, you can't marry that person because, well, we say so, they would have an uproar. There would be petitions and screaming and riots in the street. Pardon me, there's cat hair everywhere. But as long as it's a minority, like the gay community, well, that's just fine. It's all right to discriminate against them because they're just a small minority, right? It's all right. And again, as I've asked recently, how small does a minority have to be until you can just ignore their civil liberties? Apparently, for the Family Foundation, as long as it's under 10%, well, we can just ignore them. We can trounce all over their civil liberties and not even bat an eye. We can make a big public display about fasting and show the world how discriminatory and how bigoted we are, because that population is small enough we can ignore them. We can strip them of their human rights. And yes, marriage has been listed as a human right, both by the UN and by the United States. So they're endorsing, in the name of their God, removing human rights from their fellow citizens, which is a moral abomination. And I really think they need to reassess their whole love thy neighbor part of their faith, because they are not loving thy neighbor.